Welcome back, everybody. It's great to be starting season 8
Yeah?
with all of you.
Yeah.
And this season, we're diving into the world of the early church fathers,
Fascinating.
really influential figures who shaped Christianity in its early years.
Absolutely. And we have some incredible research to guide us on this journey, provided by Andre Mubarak,
Oh, wow.
an Aramaic-speaking Christian tour guide based in Jerusalem.
That sounds really interesting.
It is. It's so important to consider that Aramaic context, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Andre's work helps us connect with the linguistic and cultural world of Jesus and his disciples, offering insights that are often missed when we just read translations.
It's like we're getting a glimpse into the very roots of Christianity.
Exactly.
And speaking of roots,
Mm-hmm.
today's deep dive is all about a figure whose life and writings were deeply intertwined with those early foundations.
Okay.
Ignatius of Antioch.
Oh, Ignatius.
He wasn't just a theologian, but a leader, a martyr, and a pivotal voice in shaping Christian thought.
Exactly. To understand Ignatius, we need to picture the world he lived in. Imagine the bustling city of Antioch in the 1st and 2nd centuries.
Oh, wow.
A cultural crossroads where Greco-Roman, Semitic, and Persian influences all converged.
Now, Antioch was a major hub in the Roman Empire, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
I remember reading somewhere that it was actually where followers of Jesus were first called Christians.
You're absolutely right.
Wow.
Antioch played a pivotal role in the development of early Christian identity, but it was also a place of significant tension. Christianity was still viewed with suspicion, often seen as a sect of Judaism, and facing persecution from Roman authorities.
So in this incredibly dynamic and often dangerous environment, Ignatius emerges as a leader,
Yes.
eventually becoming the bishop of Antioch,
Right.
a position of considerable authority in the early church.
And what's fascinating is that tradition holds Ignatius to have been a disciple of the Apostle John.
Really?
Just imagine being taught by someone who walked and talked with Jesus.
That's incredible.
It places him directly in the line of those who knew Jesus personally.
That connection is mind-blowing. It really underscores the impact of his writings.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, his name Ignatius is interesting too. Doesn't it come from the Latin word for fire? It seems almost prophetic, given his fiery passion and eventual martyrdom.
It does seem like foreshadowing, doesn't
Yeah.
it? But his other name, Theophorus, is even more intriguing.
Okay?
It means God-bearer in Greek, but some scholars connect it to Aramaic roots, suggesting carried by God or bearing God's presence.
Those subtle linguistic nuances are so important.
They are.
They offer a window into how language shapes our understanding of faith.
Absolutely. And in Ignatius's case, they highlight how intertwined early Christianity was with both Greek and Aramaic thought. This linguistic blend is key to understanding his theology.
So it's like we're peeling back layers of history and language to reveal the depth and complexity of early Christian thought.
Yeah.
So with this backdrop in mind,
Okay.
let's talk about Ignatius's journey.
All right.
He faced intense persecution, ultimately leading to his arrest and transport to Rome for execution in the Colosseum, right?
That's right. But even under the threat of death, his spirit remained unbroken. In fact, during his journey to Rome, he penned 7 powerful letters
Wow.
that offer a window into his beliefs and the challenges facing the early church.
Those letters weren't just personal reflections.
No.
They became cornerstones of early Christian thought. It's incredible to think that amidst such hardship, he was focused on strengthening the faith of others.
His letters touch on a variety of critical issues, questions of church unity, the true nature of Christ, the meaning of martyrdom, and even the evolving relationship between Christianity and Judaism. These were all hot-button topics in the early church.
Okay, so let's delve into those letters and see what echoes of Ignatius's thought we can still hear today.
All right.
What were some of the major themes he addressed?
One of the most prominent and one that continues to resonate today is the idea of church unity. Ignatius strongly advocated for a hierarchical structure with the bishop at its center.
I remember reading a particularly strong quote where he basically said, wherever the bishop is, there is the church.
Exactly. He famously declared, wherever the bishop appears there, let the people be as wherever Jesus Christ is, there is the Catholic Church.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is.
Why was this idea of a central authority figure,
Yeah.
a bishop, so important to Ignatius?
For him, it wasn't just about organizational structure, it was deeply theological. Ignatius believed that the unity of the church on earth reflected the unity of God in heaven.
Okay.
A unified church led by the bishop was a visible sign of God's divine order.
It seems like this idea of unity was crucial in a time when the early church was still defining itself and facing opposition from both within and outside.
Yes.
But church unity wasn't the only theme he tackled, was it?
No.
He also delved into some complex theological issues, particularly concerning the nature of Christ.
You're absolutely right. This was a time when various ideas about Jesus were circulating, and Ignatius was writing to combat some of them. One such group, the Docetists,
Okay.
argued that Jesus only appeared to have a physical body and denied his full humanity.
So they were saying that Jesus' suffering and death weren't real?
Yes.
That seems like a pretty radical idea even for back then.
It was considered heretical by the early church.
Wow.
And Ignatius passionately opposed it. He believed that to deny Jesus' humanity was to deny the core of the Christian faith.
So how did he counter this Docetist view in his letters?
His writings are filled with references to Jesus' flesh and blood.
Mm-hmm.
These terms weren't just symbolic, they emphasized the physical reality of Christ's incarnation.
For Ignatius, this emphasis on the physical was crucial.
Yes.
He even uses the powerful phrase, medicine of immortality, when referring to the Eucharist,
Yes.
highlighting the tangible presence of Christ in this sacrament.
Powerful imagery.
Now, didn't we say earlier that the Aramaic language might play a role in this?
Yes, and it's a fascinating connection.
Okay.
You see, Aramaic had a strong emphasis on the physical world, on embodiment.
Uh-huh.
This contrasted with some Greek philosophical ideas that viewed the physical as less important than the spiritual.
Okay.
Ignatius, being steeped in both Aramaic and Greek thought, brought this unique perspective to his understanding of Christ.
So he's bridging these different cultural and linguistic worlds, drawing on both to argue for a fully human and fully divine Christ.
Exactly.
It's so interesting how these layers of meaning intertwine.
It really is, and it underscores how exploring those linguistic and cultural nuances can enrich our understanding of early Christian thought. But this focus on Christ's humanity and divinity wasn't just an abstract theological debate for Ignatius.
Right.
It had profound implications for how Christians understood salvation and their relationship with Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And this leads us to another key theme woven throughout his letters, one that becomes even more poignant considering his own fate martyrdom.
Okay, this is where his story takes on an even deeper level of intensity, right?
Yes.
Facing his own death, yet seeing it as a path to unity with Christ.
Yeah.
It's almost hard to fathom.
It is a powerful concept to grasp, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he wasn't just resigned to his fate, he embraced it. He even urged the Romans not to interfere with his martyrdom.
Wow.
There's a particularly striking quote from his letter to the Romans. "I am God's wheat ground by the teeth of wild beasts, that I may be found purebred for Christ."
That image is so vivid, so draw.
Yes.
It speaks to the brutal reality of Roman persecution, but also to the depth of Ignatius's faith. He saw his impending death not just as an end,
Right.
but as a transformation, a way of becoming one with Christ through suffering.
Exactly. This idea of imitatio Christi, the imitation of Christ, was central to early Christian thought. And Ignatius's example, his willingness to face death with such conviction, inspired countless martyrs who followed in his footsteps.
It's incredible how his personal experience became such a powerful symbol for the entire Christian community.
It is.
But his letters weren't just about personal faith and martyrdom.
No.
They also delved into some of the pressing issues facing the early church, like the relationship between Christianity and Judaism.
Right.
Didn't we touch on that earlier?
Yes, we did. It was a complex issue.
Yeah.
Remember, at this time, Christianity was often viewed as a sect of Judaism,
Mm-hmm.
and there was debate about whether Gentile converts needed to follow Jewish law.
Okay.
Ignatius, however, was quite outspoken in his warnings against adhering to Jewish customs.
So he was advocating for a distinct separation between the two faiths.
Yes.
What were the implications of that stance?
Well, for Ignatius, Christianity was a distinct and separate faith with its own unique identity and practices.
Uh-huh.
He believed that clinging to Jewish customs would undermine this distinctiveness and hinder the church's growth.
That's a perspective that could spark some interesting discussion even today.
I think so.
But it's crucial to consider the historical context, right?
Absolutely. The early church was trying to define itself in a world where it was often misunderstood and marginalized.
Yeah.
Establishing clear boundaries and a unique identity was essential for its survival and growth.
It makes you realize how much these early debates shaped the trajectory of Christian history.
Yeah.
So we've talked about church unity, Christology, martyrdom, and the relationship with Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
All weighty topics.
They are.
What's the overarching takeaway from Ignatius's letters?
Right.
What makes them so significant?
That's a great question. If we take a step back and look at the bigger picture, we can see that Ignatius's letters weren't just theological treatises.
Mm-hmm.
They were blueprints for a young, evolving faith.
Okay.
He was actively shaping the very fabric of early Christianity.
So he wasn't just a theologian, he was a leader, a builder, laying the foundation for what the church would become.
Exactly.
No wonder his writings had such a lasting impact.
Precisely. His letters were widely read and cited by later church fathers, influencing Christian theology and practice for centuries to come. His concept of martyrdom became a powerful inspiration for persecuted Christians throughout history. And his ideas about church structure, with the bishop as the central figure, shaped the development of church organization and liturgy.
It's incredible how his influence continues to reverberate even today.
It is.
He died in the Colosseum, but his legacy lives on.
It's a testament to the enduring power of words and ideas.
Yeah.
Even in the face of death, Ignatius's message of faith, unity, and unwavering commitment to Christ resonated across time and cultures. And his influence extends to different Christian traditions. He's venerated as a saint in both Eastern and Western churches, with his feast days celebrated on different dates.
It speaks volumes about his significance that he's honored by such a wide range of Christian communities.
It does.
But what strikes me most about Ignatius is his unwavering commitment to his beliefs, even in the face of unimaginable adversity.
Yes.
What can we, living in a very different time and context,
Right.
learn from his example?
That's a question worth pondering. Perhaps his story reminds us that conviction and courage can bloom even in the harshest of environments. That standing up for what we believe in, even when it's difficult or unpopular, can have a ripple effect far beyond our own lives.
It's a message that transcends time and circumstance.
It does.
And it challenges us to reflect on our own convictions.
Yes.
What are we willing to stand up for? What values are we committed to, even when faced with challenges?
Exactly. Ignatius's life and writings invite us to examine our own beliefs and actions. And they remind us that even seemingly small acts of courage and faithfulness can contribute to something much larger than ourselves.
That brings us back to something you mentioned earlier about the Aramaic influences on Ignatius's thought.
Yes.
I find that connection so fascinating.
It is.
Could you elaborate on that a bit more?
Of course. Remember, Ignatius lived in Antioch, where Aramaic was widely spoken. Some scholars believe that his emphasis on certain theological terms like flesh and blood reflects an Aramaic way of thinking, where the physical world is seen as inherently connected to the spiritual.
So it's not just about language, it's about a different way of understanding the world, one that's deeply rooted in the cultural and linguistic context of early Christianity.
Precisely. And this Aramaic influence sheds light on his strong emphasis on the incarnation, on Christ's physical presence in the world. It adds a new dimension to our understanding of his theology.
It's a reminder that the development of Christianity wasn't a monolithic process, but a rich tapestry woven from diverse cultural and linguistic threads.
Right.
And to explore those threads further, we have a fantastic resource to share with our listeners.
Okay.
The work of Andrei Mubarak,
Yes.
the Aramaic-speaking Christian tour guide who provided the research for this episode.
Yes, Andrei's work is a treasure trove of insights into the Aramaic roots of Christianity.
His website, www.twinsbiblicalacademy.com, is a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to delve deeper into this fascinating world.
And for those who are fortunate enough to visit Jerusalem, I highly recommend taking one of Andrei's tours.
Oh, wow.
His passion for the subject is contagious, and he brings the ancient world to life in a way that's both informative and inspiring.
It's like stepping back in time and experiencing the world through the eyes of those who lived and breathed the Aramaic language and culture.
Exactly. And now, having explored Ignatius's life, his writings, and his enduring legacy, we want to leave you with a final thought-provoking question to ponder.
A question that builds on everything we've discussed, but takes it a step further.
Yes.
Think of it as your own personal deep dive into the world of Ignatius of Antioch.
Exactly. All right, so what's the question?
Yeah, what are we leaving our listeners with?
We've talked about Ignatius's unwavering commitment to his beliefs, even in the face of death.
Yeah.
But what do you think were the deeper motivations behind his embrace of martyrdom? Was it solely a desire to imitate Christ?
Or were there other factors at play, perhaps related to the specific challenges and pressures facing the early church?
Exactly. We've discussed the political and religious tensions of the Roman Empire, the struggle to define Christian identity amidst various competing ideas, and the growing separation between Christianity and Judaism.
Right.
How might these factors have shaped Ignatius's understanding of martyrdom?
And maybe even more importantly, what can we glean from his perspective today? How can his example inspire us to stand up for our own convictions,
Right.
even when it feels like the world is against us?
These are questions worth pondering, questions that can lead to a deeper understanding not just of early church history,
Yeah.
but of the nature of faith and courage itself.
It's like we're being challenged to step into Ignatius' sandals, to
Yes.
feel the weight of his decisions, and to grapple with the complexities of living out one's faith in a world that's not always welcoming or understanding.
And that's the beauty of these deep dives, isn't it? We're not just passively absorbing information.
Mm-hmm.
We're engaging with these historical figures, wrestling with their ideas,
Yeah.
and finding ways to connect those ideas to our own lives and experiences.
It's like having a conversation across the century, learning from the wisdom of those who came before us, and hopefully finding inspiration and guidance for our own journeys.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the life and legacy of Ignatius of Antioch.
But the conversation doesn't have to end here.
No.
We encourage all of you listening to keep exploring the world of the early church fathers,
Yes.
to delve into their writings, grapple with their ideas,
Right.
and see what resonates with you.
And if you're looking for a guide on that journey, don't forget to check out Andre Mubarak's website,
Oh yeah,
www.twinsbiblicalacademy.com.
great resource.
His work on the Aramaic roots of Christianity offers a unique and enriching perspective, and it's a great starting point for further exploration.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery.